The Texas Flip, a novel of risk, love, and real estate. Chapter 1. The Curse of the Redhead. The Texas sun was an unapologetic weight, pressing down on the asphalt of the Houston suburbs until the air shimmered with the ghost of heat. Inside the Hart household, Reba Hart sat at the kitchen table. A stack of closing documents mocked her from under the fluorescent light. She was a woman built of grit and fire-red hair. But today, the fire felt like it was smoldering under a pile of damp ashes. "I sold it," Reba announced to the empty room, her voice a mixture of triumph and poison. "That little starter home on Elm Street, the one I've been nursing like a sick kitten for 6 months. Gone." Cheyenne, her eldest daughter, wandered in, balancing a toddler on one hip and a look of vague concern on her face. "Isn't selling houses the whole point of your job?" Reba let out a dry, hacking laugh. "In theory, yes. In practice, I am apparently a charitable organization for people named David Davids." She explained the sting. David Davids, a man whose parents were clearly as uninspired as his business ethics, was another agent at her firm. He hadn't bought the house to live in. He hadn't bought it to help a family. He had bought it to flip it. Within 48 hours, he had listed it for $50,000 more than Reba had sold it for. 50 grand, Cheyenne, Reba whispered, the number tasting like copper in her mouth. "He made my annual salary in a weekend because he had the stones to buy low. I'm the flippy. I'm the one getting tossed around while everyone else lands on their feet." "Well," Cheyenne said, sliding into the chair opposite her mother, "why don't you just be the flipper? You know more about these houses than anyone." Reba looked at her daughter with the weary patience of a woman who had seen the bottom of a wine bottle and the bottom of a bank account. "Because, honey, the bank doesn't lend money to red-headed women with grit. They lend it to people with high credit scores. Mine took a nosedive during the divorce and never pulled out of the tailspin." "Don't ever get divorced, Cheyenne. It ruins your soul and your interest rates." The conversation shifted, as it often did in the Hart house, toward the absurd. They discussed Van, Cheyenne's husband, a former high school football star whose professional career had ended with an injury and whose current career consisted mostly of being charming and occasionally profound in the most unexpected ways. "Van has a pre-approval letter," Cheyenne mentioned casually. Reba froze. "He what?" "He got it months ago. Every time he and Brock get into a fight and Brock threatens to kick us out of the guest house, Van gets paranoid. He wanted a quick exit strategy. He's got the credit. Mom, he's got the golden ticket." Reba's mind began to whir. It was a dangerous sound, the sound of a woman who had nothing left to lose and a bottle of whiteout in the junk drawer. Chapter 2. The Froth on the Market. Van Montgomery was a man of simple pleasures, a good sandwich, a loud television, and the unwavering belief that he was the protagonist of a very interesting movie. When Reba approached him with the partnership, he didn't react with the excitement she expected. Instead, he leaned back in his recliner, looking like a retired philosopher king. "Pass," Van said. Reba blinked. "Pass? Van, I am offering you the chance of a lifetime. We use your credit, my brains, and we rake in the cash. We could be the next power duo of Houston real estate." "Mrs. H," Van said, using the nickname that always made Reba feel both respected and incredibly old. "The housing market is falsely inflated. It's full of untrained speculators. To quote Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan, the froth is on the market." Reba stared at him. "Do you even know what that means? Did you just eat a dictionary?" "I know that when an old guy in a suit talks about money, I listen," Van replied. "Risk is for people who have something to gain. I have everything I need right here. Why would I gamble our future on a bubble that's about to burst?" But Reba knew Van. She knew he was a creature of ego. She knew that he prided himself on his stones, that elusive, masculine quality of bravery. "You're just afraid," Reba challenged, her eyes narrowing. "David Davids is making a fortune because he has the nerve. You? You're just talking. You're all talk and no trigger." Van bristled. The air in the room changed. "You think I don't have stones? I put forks in toasters. Mrs. H, I live on the edge. A fork in a toaster gets you an English muffin and a mild heart arrhythmia." Reba snapped. Buying a house gets you a life. I guarantee you, I will find a house to flip within the week. You in or out? Van looked at her, the challenge hanging between them like a physical weight. 1 week, or 7 days, whichever comes first. You find the deal, I provide the credit. But if it blows up, it's on your red head. Chapter 3. The Satellite Confessional. While Reba and Van were plotting their financial empire, Brock Hart was experiencing a different kind of crisis. Brock, a dentist with a penchant for midlife crisis purchases and a leopard print thong he thought was fun, was currently lost. He was driving his expensive SUV, his second wife Barbara Jean in the passenger seat. They were supposed to be at the opera. They were currently in a cul-de-sac that looked suspiciously like the one they had left 20 minutes ago. We missed the first act, Brock. Barbara Jean sighed. She was a woman who lived for drama, ruffles, and the feeling of being cherished. If you had just asked for directions. I don't need directions. I'm a dentist. I navigate complex root canals every day, Brock shouted, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. And don't talk to me about the opera. No straight man wants to go to the opera. I bought those tickets as a sacrifice. A sacrifice? Barbara Jean's voice hit a high, tremulous note. I just wanted adult conversation, Brock. I need someone to talk to who doesn't use a diaper. In a fit of pique, Barbara Jean reached out and pressed the blue button on the rearview mirror, the Econostar assistance system. Don't touch that, Brock yelled. It costs $2 a minute plus tax. Hello? This is Hal from Econostar. How can I assist you today? A smooth, calm voice drifted through the car speakers. Barbara Jean's face lit up. Oh, hi, Hal. I'm Barbara Jean. You sound very helpful. I try to be, Barbara Jean. Are you lost? In more ways than one, Hal. In more ways than one. Over the next week, as Reba scoured the city for a house, Barbara Jean found a new confidant. While Brock retreated into his silence and his dental journals, Barbara Jean sat in the parked car in the garage, talking to the satellite. She told Hal about her childhood in Friendly, Texas. She told him about her sister, butt-ugly Lori Ann. She told him about the loneliness that gnawed at the edges of her bubbly personality. It was a romance of the digital age, a woman seeking a voice in the dark, and a man paid by the hour to listen. Chapter 4. The 7-Day Itch. Reba was exhausted. She had looked at 52 houses in 6 days. She had smelled mold that could melt paint. She had seen foundations that looked like a jigsaw puzzle after an earthquake. She had talked to neighbors who owned more shotguns than teeth. On the 7th day, she sat in the kitchen, defeated. I got nothing, Van, she admitted when he walked in, looking smug. Zilch. You were right. I'm cursed. I look at a house and I see the plumbing failing. I see the termites. I see the catastrophe. I don't have the stones. Van looked at her, and for a moment, the bravado dropped. He saw his mother-in-law, the woman who had held the family together through his own failures and Cheyenne's struggles, looking truly broken. Well, Mrs. H., Van said softly, it's a good thing I didn't wait for you. Reba looked up. What? I bought a house? Reba's heart stopped. You what? Without an inspection? Without me seeing it? I had to move fast, Van said, his chest puffing out. There were 15 other offers. I took it as is. No risk, no reward, right? That's what the flippers do. Van, as is in real estate means, this house is a portal to hell, Reba screamed. You used our money, our future, on a gamble? I believe in us, Van said, though his voice wavered slightly. I believe in your luck. You're like a 4-leaf clover with a temper. Tomorrow, we go see the verdict. Chapter 5. The Revelation in the Driveway. The house was a beige bungalow that looked like it was sighing under the weight of its own existence. I can't do it, Van, she whispered. If we walk in there and the inspector tells us the foundation is cracked, we lose everything. Every time something good happens, the other shoe drops, and usually it's a heavy boot. Van walked over to her. He didn't look like the goofy kid who put forks in toasters anymore. He looked like a man who understood something Reba had forgotten. Mrs. H., you think you're jinxed, Van said. But look at me. When my parents kicking me out, I found a home with you. When I got hurt, you helped me heal. When Cheyenne was struggling with the sauce, you were the one who kept the light on. Things don't get worse when you're around. They get better. You're not the jinx, you're the cure. Reba felt a tear prick her eye. Van, that is the sweetest, most manipulative thing you have ever said.